In 1980, in pursuit of oil, Texaco drillers drilled a little too far beneath Lake Peigneur. The result of this endeavor was a disaster of enormous proportions. By ignoring the iron rules of geography, Texaco successfully transformed a nice lake into a whirlpool of destruction. Join us in this Liber-Tea episode as we take an in-depth look into the Lake Peigneur disaster. One morning in November 1980, as a Texaco rig team was working, they noticed something peculiar. Upon close inspection, the team realized that their drill was stuck below the lake's surface, which was merely 11 feet deep. Attempts to salvage the equipment became futile as the platform began tilting following a series of loud pops. The alarmed men fled for dear life. Unbeknownst to them, they had just transformed the landscape of Iberia Parish forever. The drillers had successfully managed to turn the shallow lake into a swirling vortex of doom. Was this disaster a result of an innocent miscalculation by Texaco engineers, or did negligence cause it? Listen on. After noticing something was terribly wrong, the drillers cut loose the attached barges. The drillers scrambled off the rig to the lake shore. Shortly after, they watched as the rig disappeared beneath the lake. Additionally, the water around where the rig had sunk began to turn. In the beginning, the water turned slowly, but it turned into a huge, fast-moving whirlpool, measuring a quarter a mile in diameter after some time, as the gurgling vortex pulled barges and boats into it. An onlooker screamed, "The end of the world has come." At the time of the disaster, Lake Peigneur was an unremarkable water body in Louisiana, and while the freshwater lake covered over 1,300 acres, it was only 11 feet deep. It also hosted a small island where landscape was dotted by oil wells and a beautiful botanical park, Jefferson Park. Deep beneath the lake, the Diamond Crystal Salt Mine had constructed hundreds of tunnels for its mining operations. As the commotion was going on, an electrician working for Diamond Crystal's mines heard a strange noise in the salt mines. The electrician soon saw fuel drums carried along the tunnel by a knee-deep stream of water. He immediately warned his colleagues by flashing the mine's lights 3 times. Procedurally, this called for the immediate evacuation of the mine. Some miners working in the mine were 1,500 feet below the surface, a precarious place to be during the formation of a massive vortex. The men began to race towards the 1,300 feet level, where they would use an elevator to get to the surface. However, upon reaching the 3rd level, deep water curtailed further ascent. The Texaco drill had penetrated the salt dome in which the mine was located. Investigations show that Texaco had commissioned the oil probe and was aware of the mine's presence. During the investigations, it had also been established that the oil firm had planned accordingly on account of this knowledge. However, in the drilling process, the drill had been deflected in the direction of the mine. Alternatively, the drill may have been placed directly atop the mine due to some miscalculation. Consequently, as the lake's water poured through the original 14-inch wide hole, it dissolved the salt dome, causing the hole to expand by the minute. The water that found its way into the mine also dissolved its massive salt pillars, which helped to secure the mine's ceiling. Soon afterward, the tunnels began to collapse. As the disaster unfolded, the heroic Randy LaSalle, a maintenance supervisor, drove to the salt mine's remote areas to warn his colleagues who may not have heard the alarm. Meanwhile, the miners whose escape had been slowed by water used diesel-powered vehicles and mine carts to reach the 1,300 feet below the surface level. Upon arrival, the miners patiently waited in turns for the slow 8-person elevator to get them to the surface as the water quickly filled the mine. Luckily, all the 50 miners escaped with their lives. On the surface, the whirlpool's immense sucking power was causing destruction of apocalyptic proportions. The vortex created swallowed a considerable amount of soil from Jefferson Island. Investigations indicate that over 70 acres of soil may have gone down the vortex. Additionally, it swallowed the entirety of the neighboring rig, as well as structures, trucks, trees, a parking lot, and a barge loading dock. In the process, a ruptured gas line caught fire, sending a column of fire into the sky. The vortex's sucking force was so great as to reverse the flow of a 12-mile canal, which flowed into the Gulf of Mexico, dragging 12 barges from the canal into the vortex of doom. This shocking occurrence lasted 3 hours, and by its end, Lake Peigneur had been relieved of over 3.5 billion gallons of fresh water. After 2 days of filling the crater, 9 disappeared barges popped up like corks. However, the rigs that were swallowed remained entombed in the salt mine. Despite the tremendous destruction that occurred on that fateful day, no person lost their life. Also, no one incurred any grievous injuries from the disaster. Within 2 days, an 11 feet deep saltwater lake had been transformed into a 1,300-foot saltwater lake. This caused a drastic change in the water body's biology. Gradually, the lake has become a habitat for hundreds of saltwater plants and animals, species that did not exist before. Jefferson Park continues to thrive despite being under imminent threat of being sucked into the vortex. It goes without saying that Texaco was slapped with numerous lawsuits, which were settled out of court, setting it back millions of dollars. For their pain and suffering, the owners of Diamond Crystal Salt Mine were awarded damages to the tune of $45 million and abandoned the salt mining business forever, with good reason. Since all the evidence was sucked into the abyss, no official blame for the disastrous miscalculation has ever been directed at anyone. As such, the turn of events is the generally accepted theory regarding the creation of the largest artificial whirlpool in human history. Thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you have enjoyed it and have learned something. Like, share, and subscribe to Liber-Tea for more fascinating stories about various oddities.